Welcome to the Geek Homeworld. I am your host, Ed, aka Savage Tech Man. We talk sci-fi, TV, movies, superheroes, and all from a geek perspective. You can find us on Blogger, Google+, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. We're everywhere. Join the Geek Homeworld. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another wonderful episode of the Geek Homeworld podcast. Geek Homeworld, that is. I can't get my words out today. And we are back here in this alternate reality, and I'm joined for the first time by phone through a new contraption of mine, an interface that I have that I'll talk about later on. Not tonight, but Scott Schreiber is joining me again on the podcast. Welcome, Scott.
Hey, thanks, Ed. Happy to be here, especially under these circumstances. I'm going to try to be in the studio, but
yeah, we're both social distancing from everything. So, how's it been for you on your side of the world down the street?
I mean, it's doing okay. We're surviving, getting by, being optimistic, but not being able to go to the theater is really, really killing us.
Yeah, it's literally, because we work in the film industry, and so there's nothing, it's like everything screeched to a halt.
Right. Not only am I not working on anything right now, I can't even go to the theater and see anything, and I'm not one to pay $20 for video on demand. So
me either.
A little disappointed that we can't go out. I understand, and we're going to honor that. Looking forward to being able to get back out there and get to the theater and see some good movies. Hopefully, July-ish is looking like it, but we'll see. We don't know. We're in kind of this limbo, aren't we? We don't know.
Right. And today is what? Today is May. When we're recording this, it's Friday, May the 1st, 2020.
Right, May 1st.
Which
the movie
is wild.
Have been, the movie theaters have been closed since March 16th, I believe. So
yeah.
Good 6 weeks.
And where we're from here in Savannah, Georgia, it's St. Patrick's Day was canceled. Which is like, I don't think ever happened, and everything got canceled. And, I personally don't know anybody yet. I know I have some Facebook friends that have lost, loved ones. So certainly our thoughts and prayers go out to everyone inside the industry, outside the industry, and just whoever you are. It's tough. And, I have days that are better than some. And, we all asked for life to slow down and to have more time, right? To do those things, those creative things. And we kind of got that in spades. And so I can't say I've been totally productive, but I have been trying to, further my knowledge on some things.
Right.
And
at the very least, we're eating up all the content we can, aren't we?
That's right. Yeah. Expiration dates mean something now. You just don't toss it out. You're like, that's a few months old. I think we can get by on this can of beans or whatever. And
you're being literal. I'm eating up virtual content, watching shows.
I'm sorry. I'm hungry.
I get that. No, you're cleaning out the pantry. You got to. Right?
I'm tired of doing dishes every day. That's something I should do, and I do usually.
But I think everybody is now dumber for having watched Tiger King. So
I want to mark myself safe from that. My wife, she watched it, and when everybody watched it, and I found something else. I was trying to do the free service of CBS All Access. I watched Picard, which we got to watch that and actually loved it. I don't know if have you done CBS All Access?
No, not CBS All Access.
Well, I made a mistake, and we didn't. The wife said, "Well, we need to cancel it before the free thing is over." And of course, I let it lapse because I started watching Discovery, and some of my friends were like, "You have to watch Discovery," and I was like, "I really don't want to watch Discovery," but I enjoyed Picard.
We're pretty much working our way through Netflix and Amazon Prime that we haven't watched. We finally discovered Ozark, which is fantastic.
Yeah, I need to get caught up with that. You need to. Did you ever get to watch Train to Busan?
I did not. That's on my list. I saw you had watched Extraction, which watched that the other day, and that was pretty good.
Yeah, with Chris Hemsworth.
Good action.
Yeah, I enjoyed it, and it's the Russo brothers behind it, so.
But it would have been much better in the theaters, and that's
it totally would have been.
I hope that obviously we can get back to it, and AMC especially here in Savannah, we want these to open back up. AMC, they didn't have to file for bankruptcy. It looked like they were going to have to, but right now they haven't, because they got like a $500 million credit to kind of cover those costs to get them through to July 17th or mid-July. It looks like Tenet, Christopher Nolan's Tenet, no one N.
I know I can't say that. Tenet.
It looks like that's the first big release that we're looking forward to is July 17th. God willing, we're not social distance anymore, and we can do this, and they're back open, and that would be a great movie to open theaters back up.
Yeah, get our hazmat suits out and sit in the theater.
yeah, exactly.
Put me in a Ziploc bag. Yellow and blue makes green. Zip me up.
I think they could designate 4 or 5 hazmat suits per theater. It's not much, not making much money, but
and. So, the whole AMC thing, I mean, we literally have 2 theaters left because the Regal went out of business last year here, and we're in a pretty big city, relatively speaking. Yeah. And, kind of shocked, I still am, I'm a Regal card holder, so I watched all my points dwindle to nothing. And, they still, I need to unsubscribe from the emails, I guess, because I'll never see a Regal film around here. It seems like
probably not.
And, but yeah, the AMC, I was like shocked. And the story for anybody who hasn't been caught up with it just real briefly is that they spent about, and correct me if I'm wrong here, please. I think they were about $5 million. Is it $5 million in debt to upgrade the theaters? And they were in the process of doing that. AMC,
the local one.
No, throughout the chain because I noticed
I don't know the exact number, but
it was something like that.
One here. They had just upgraded the bathroom.
Right. I was about to say that. Yeah. I was like, oh, new sinks and everything. And so I guess they're getting to the other stuff. And then literally, but this is the thing about AMC. They literally, for the first time, had posted, because this was planned out. They knew they were going to go into massive debt, but they were going to upgrade the theaters for a better theater experience. And they had the, gosh, I haven't used it in so long. What is it? The A+? I forgot.
The A-list.
The A-list, thank you. And so this was the first quarter that they made a profit from A-list, and then all of a sudden the pandemic hit and theaters shut down. And I'm like, oh my gosh, talk about the perfect storm of crazy, And so I think maybe it's another situation of too big to fail. I think AMC is going to come out of it. Well, the news you just said here, it sounds like they're not going to do the bankruptcy thing, and
and it's not that bankruptcy is even a bad thing. It could be what helps them get out of it. But
the restructuring, but they were hiring and everything, even here, because we were complaining they need more people here, and you had an elaborate list of what was wrong with each actual theater.
Well, but I mean, that's just, there were a lot of problems, but
but they were.
But hopefully we can get them back open.
Because they tried to open a theater. It was I think it was the IMAX that's just outside of Savannah, and they said we're not ready to open when the governor said y'all can open. And we're like, because you don't think about the vendors that bring the popcorn and the Coke vendors or Pepsi products or whatever, and you got to move people. You have to have people to do that. So anyway, I don't mean to go too much off topic there, but it's been so long since I've talked to a human being on the podcast.
Understood.
Yeah. So Tenet, July 17th. These are all tentative. Ha ha ha. Wait a minute. I think there's a sound effect for that. Oh, it's not working. I didn't turn it on. There we go. Oh yeah. Oh no, that's the wrong one. Sorry. I'm still figuring this thing out.
Okay.
There it is.
There you go. Okay.
But
hopefully we can get theaters back open July 17th with Tenet, Mulan. Mulan was the next big release that got pushed to July 24th.
If any movie, and we said this before because you hadn't been on since I think in February was the last time you were on the podcast. Yeah, our Oscars recap, I think, which was a great episode. I think we probably touched on Mulan. We were waiting for Mulan because I just think we both think that would have opened really big, especially in China, because Right.
And Mulan was one of the early casualties. It was that and A Quiet Place 2.
Oh God, that broke my heart.
We're both supposed to come out like right around mid to late March, and
right.
So we were supposed to already have those movies, and they now got pushed back. Mulan, it's a good summer spot if theaters are back open.
Yeah,
it's a good spot to be in. And Quiet Place got moved to Labor Day weekend. Another good spot, to make some money. So we'll see.
Yeah, and then the James Bond film got pushed back. No Time to Kill.
Yeah, I think that's James. Yeah, No Time to Die is going to be.
No Time to Die. Sorry.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a Thanksgiving release.
And this is, I don't know if this is on the list because I haven't looked over the wonderful notes you jotted down here, but just heard the other day that Mission Impossible 7 and 8 that we're filming back to back are pushed back to, number 7's pushed back to November of 2021, and then 8 to 2022, and that's
so a full year.
Yeah. And
which makes sense. I mean,
they were almost done too.
Much on hold. All the Marvels been pushed back. Black Widow is now November 6th, and then everything else. Right. So everything basically went back in their schedule. I can't remember the order of it, but everything just kind of got pushed back.
Right. All the Marvel stuff, you basically just take one movie and push everything back a movie. So, like Eternals, Black Widow is taking the spot that Eternals would have had in November, and then
there you go.
Yeah, it just keeps pushing back. So you push, and that includes all the Disney, not Disney Plus. What's it called? Marvel. The Marvel on Disney.
The Disney Marvel.
Yeah.
Other big ones that do have a date now. I don't know if this ever changed, but the new Halloween is October 16th. Wonder Woman 1984 is now August 14th. That's a big date right there.
Right. That's kind of a weird date, but yeah, it's like if you're trying to make it into 2020, it's going to be, and this is hopefully we've flattened the curve, as everybody's been saying, and this won't come back a second wave, but if a second wave comes back, in flu season, this could totally stop everything. So let's hope not. But yeah,
no, they will, and we're backing up and doing things around mid-June. Maybe even, I don't know.
I'm surprised Halloween made October. I'm surprised it didn't get pushed back to Christmas or something. A Halloween Christmas.
These dates stick. I mean, there's some other with Godzilla vs. Kong is in November 20th. There's some decent movies that you have to see in the theater.
Right.
The Free Guy with Ryan Reynolds looks great. That's now December 11th.
And so, that's so weird. We were digging the trailers for that, and now I've forgotten about that film, and that feels like a film that might have been pushed, to like video on demand, but I hope it doesn't.
It's one of those that would be really good in the theater.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
And the following week, Dune, Denis Villeneuve, and he's going to do it in
doesn't
2
that
parts.
Look fabulous? I mean, that looks really awesome. It's a trailer. If you've seen it.
And then, Top Gun Maverick, one we've been looking forward to. That's a Christmas release now. So, as we said, hopefully these dates stick and we can go see these.
But what's going to happen is a lot of the box office potential that they might have made, I know the Russo brothers were talking about maybe Infinity War and Endgame coming out back into theaters, and that is smart. And maybe some older films, that we never got to see in this higher definition that we have now in theaters, maybe Back to the Future trilogy will come back out. Maybe, Gone with the Wind or, Lawrence of Arabia or some, and like you said, introduce a new generation to some classics, maybe Jaws, and
Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Hey.
Yeah, it was pretty groundbreaking at that time with Jessica Rabbit.
Movies like that are meant to be seen on the big screen, and that's what is important here. I think that it's why I think that the industry will survive. I mean, there is still a draw.
Right.
I think the box office set a record, I believe, last year for how much money was brought in, and
Most of it was
even
Disney.
though there are less films that do well, those films that do well do really well.
Right.
So it's so there is a lot of money to be had. People still are going to the movie theaters, and there will be a fervor to get back out there, I think. And,
I think there's, and with the economy, I believe that too. I mean, there's this pent up. We've been self-isolating this whole country for so long in places around the world. I just think once people can actually get out and but it's, will people rush to the restaurants? Will they rush to the theaters? And we're going to have to see. I think some people are going to kind of like step in the one foot in the pool, to see if the water's warm enough at first.
One studio that thinks that people might not rush back out there is Universal, it sounds like, right?
Yeah. One thing I wanted to say real quick before we talk about that is I hope I hope, and I'm just looking at some of the dates you have here for the films we mentioned. There's 1 week where there's like 3 or 4 major films opening, and so I think they're gonna cannibalize each other if you put too many of these big films that were perfectly spaced out, because that's how the industry works. You don't have a film that's going to cannibalize another film's opening generally, unless your film's really strong. And who knows, maybe 2020 will somehow not be a write-off of a year, but
or maybe things get pushed back. They don't release as much. We just have less content as far as feature films go this year, and some things are going straight to Netflix. I believe, what was it? The one with Kumail Nanjiani.
Is that the Trolls World Tour?
Well, I mean, I'm saying the ones that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Right, Trolls went straight to video on demand. I'm talking about Netflix actually signed. Got the I want to say it was Lovebirds was the name of it, with Issa Rae and Kumail Nanjiani, where they just, instead of it going to the theater and video on demand, it actually is going to Netflix. And
no, I did not hear that. That's interesting.
Yeah, that was the one that I heard that went to the streaming service. And Amazon produces their own stuff anyway, so some of their content will go straight there anyway. But Universal, has had success with Trolls too, and it started a big controversy here.
Yeah, they made like $100 million off of it, which is surprising. I mean, I think they did the numbers on it, and if let's say Black Widow or Mulan, it's probably, Black Widow was probably going to be $1 billion film,
Sure.
And if you take it straight to video on demand, even at like $20 a pop, I think the maximum a film can make, figuring out the numbers, is roughly about 500 million. So films would lose money, or potential money, but
I think that Trolls 2 is a unique case. It's a kid's film. So,
True.
Families are more willing to spend that $20 and to entertain their children in these times right now. And I just don't, no other film is doing that well. I think Invisible Man did okay, and The Hunt.
Yeah.
But nothing else is really breaking ground. And it's just, I think that, I think Universal better be careful, because they said that they may continue to release straight to video on demand even when the theaters reopen, and I just think it sets a bad precedent, and I think it would hurt the industry. What do you think?
Well, it's weird how it almost feels like this is orchestrated to kill theaters, because on one side you have AMC and Regal for pro theaters, and then you have Universal Theaters plus video on demand. So they're trying to, kind of get money in both pockets. And, I can understand both sides of the issue, but I tell you what,
the issue,
we're getting
what it boils down to, I think, is that it's essentially a breach of contract, because there's an agreement that there's the release window between theater and video on demand of about 3 months, that, theaters can have the movie for three months, and then video demand kicks in. Now, AMC AMC has basically come back at Universal and says, we ban all your films because you said that you might not, continue to honor the release window, which is what they basically said. It was might not, so it's, I think that hopefully this is just a bunch of posturing, it's like, well, we're not going to play your films and trying to get them into it. Hopefully Universal caves. I don't know, but I just, I don't know. I wish, if you cut that release window, if you breach that contract of that, then you really are hurting movie theaters.
I mean, it's a whole industry that's going to die. And I know that physical media has been on the decline, and this couldn't have come at a worse time when, people are moving away from that, and they just, and what you may have mentioned this, or I may have heard it mentioned that it's not people buying these films. They're just renting them for like $20,
Right.
And so I'm not really going to own it,
And that's the thing. It's like I'm a different consumer. There may be a lot of people out there that will do that and pay $20 to rent. I'm not going to do that.
I'm not either.
I might pay $20 to own, but we usually wouldn't. Like digital movies, I would have the max is 10. I don't really want to pay more than 10. I like the $5 bargain. I'll buy a $5 movie all day long.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not going to pay 20. But there's a lot of people out there that might. I don't know. I really don't think there is, though. I think that ultimately companies are going to lose money if they break the window, the release window.
Yeah, and so it's kind of like they got to respect each other's processes, and
right.
There's. I want to experience those tentpole movies, especially. I want to see A Quiet Place Part 2 in the surround sound, the Dolby 7.1 or whatever we're up to now. I don't even know the specs, but and I want the big picture, and I want to be scared to death and amazed, and I want to be on the edge of my seat for Top Gun Maverick when it comes out. I don't want to watch it on my TV. I don't have a smart TV. My TV still work, unfortunately, or fortunately, I guess. But I don't have the equivalent of what I can, ride right down the street and see. And for me,
and some people do, and God bless them. But
for me, it's like, and I think for you the same. There's that experience of going, especially if it's like, for me, if it's a Star Wars or Marvel or some film like that I'm really, or for me, Terminator even, is one of those franchises I really love or whatever. And there's that experience, that community feel of like other people that are as excited as you, or maybe even more excited to see this film. And they've been waiting months. And that just pent up, excitement. And then, when something happens and you're all kind of feeling the same thing, you can't get that at home when you're isolated, and it's like libraries still exist. They said libraries would be gone, and, and local bookstores are making a comeback. Vinyl's making a comeback, things that were pronounced DOA, and after their lifespan or whatever are coming back. So I don't think theaters will go away. They will still exist. This would probably be a great time for non-studio films, a lot of local films, a lot of indie films. If theaters open up and they're desperate for content, maybe, there might be a way for how, like, some of these streaming services where bands, can put their stuff online and stuff like that. And, maybe there's a way that even if they don't, that they can stream concerts to, like maybe AMC can, if let's say Garth Brooks concert doesn't happen and, they can stream that, and I hope it happens.
Right. And I've seen that, drive-in theaters are starting to pop back up, and some of them are showing music concerts, and which is
showing old films.
A great idea.
Yeah, one of them was playing one of the Back to the Future films, and I'm like, that would be fantastic because they've the theaters, the drive-in theaters that are out there, they're not what they were like 50 years ago. They're updated. They're a lot more updated, and you can.
Well, if they weren't torn down, now I know back in
Right.
my hometown of North Carolina, the one there, I'm pretty sure the screen was torn down. And
Yeah.
so they don't even have that option to go back there, unfortunately.
And honestly, I think that this is like lightning in a bottle moment. I've said this before, but I said, if I had the money, I would put up it right in this city. I know the place where the old one used to be, and I would literally do that and build it if I had the money. I would build a theater, and people would come because you could stay in your car, air conditioned unit. They'll bring food to your car. I mean, you're comfortable, and if you want to leave, you just drive away, and you can social distance. I mean, so it kind of works within, but you still get that, you can put the windows down, and get that feel of the, you're there in a theater and also,
yeah, ours was next to a cow pasture. So.
Oh dear. Yeah, so you definitely
smelled great.
Yeah, you're like this, and if the film was a dud, then it really smelled like it, right?
it matched it. Meshed.
That's hilarious. So what else are we thinking of?
Well, hopefully here, just to get back to the AMC and Regal thing, AMC, they've kind of come out and put their foot down and said, we're banning all your films. Regal said that they were going to do the same thing. They've kind of backtracked. They basically said, we're not going to ban your films. We're just saying that we're not going to play any of your films that break the release window, which is essentially the issue here. And hopefully they stand strong, get Universal to honor the release window. Maybe they can compromise, have a shorter release window. I mean, 3 months is kind of long, especially in these times. But I mean, everybody loses with a ban. I mean, who wins there? Or really even straight to the video on demand, I think we all lose too. So
yeah, because there are films I won't see. If I'm paying for Netflix, are they going to charge you extra if a film goes to there? If there's like, let's say Mulan, well, it would go to Disney, but is Disney Plus going to say, okay, we were releasing Mulan, skipping the theaters, or we'll do the? I mean, years ago they talked about this. Hey, how about the, releasing it the same day?
I'm not sure how. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. But I mean, they had toyed with this idea a long time ago. Because I mean, I can remember VHS. I remember Blockbuster. I remember all that. I remember Netflix when you got DVDs, and then you could pay an upgrade charge and actually get the Blu-ray sent to you in the mail. And it never occurred to me that streaming. Well, nobody thought of streaming. Somebody did, but yeah, I mean. I don't know. I mean,
it doesn't make much sense for Disney to push a movie like Mulan to Disney Plus. You lose a lot of money.
They lose so much, even internationally.
They supposedly are planning to move Artemis Fowl to Disney Plus.
I think that's probably smart because I've been hearing mixed things about that.
You think that would have made money? I'm not sure how much money that would have been.
See, that's the other thing. And maybe the Issa Rae film wouldn't have done as good. Who knows? I mean, I didn't get to see it. So, but it feels like that film, just seeing the previews, that it would probably be a good film, but it'd be a good film to, if I didn't see it in a theater, the world wouldn't end for me, and, but there's certain films, these bigger ones, like I want to see James Bond on the big screen. I want to see, especially Maverick. I am, Mission Impossible 7 and 8 and all that. I want to see Fast 9. I was looking forward to the goofiness of that film and Han's back somehow. And
see, that's Universal. That is Universal movie. That's the biggest movie that the theaters would lose out on and Universal would lose out on.
So is some of these that we mentioned, do you know which ones specifically? Because all I know is I haven't really looked into honestly to see which ones were Universal on the releases, but what were some big ones?
We mentioned
some of them were? Okay.
No, I don't think any of them were.
Yeah.
They're really not at the top of the food chain. I mean, they have some good I don't think they are as far as quality,
right. I mean, films like Bill and Ted, if
Yeah.
it didn't make, if I didn't see that in a theater, that's okay. I want to, but I really want to. But if it goes to Netflix, I'm fine. Antebellum, that looked like an interesting film, and that looked like that would be a really cool film to see in theaters. I mean, a lot of these
and
are.
that's Blumhouse.
Yeah, and they've done some good stuff. And now, weren't they behind Invisible Man? Is that correct? I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was the last one that I saw, and I actually saw it twice because we went and saw it, and then I went to go see it with my wife, and I was like, well, I'll have time to see some of these other films because I was worried about getting my 3 movies in, and I was like, well, I don't want to see this a second time. I do want to see it a second time because it was good. But there's one reason. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, last movie I saw in the theater was The Hunt.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
that was pretty good. And then I was planning on, I was like looking up times to go see Bloodshot and give that a chance.
Right.
And,
you were like, you want to go with me? And I'm like, I couldn't work it out, or we were about to start the pandemic basically or something.
Well, then I looked at my phone and tried to look for times, and they're like, we are temporarily closed. And I was like, okay. Gosh. They finally gave in.
Yeah.
That was right after like the ACC tournament, all those basketball tournaments got canceled.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, everything just started shutting down, and I tell you, whatever parallel Earth we've fallen into, I don't like this one. I'm ready to restart 2020. All the memes that say 2020 is broken, I need to Control Alt Delete it. Or my version of 2020 has gone bad. It'll
be interesting, moving the rest of the year and what movies do get released and how they get released. It brings up interesting topic with the Oscars.
Well, yeah, because we don't want Bad Boys for Life to win Best Picture, do we?
Yeah, right. Yeah,
if we strictly went off what's been released,
the best reviewed film. Right?
It's actually the #1 box office film of the year. Yes, and then I think Invisible Man might be number 2. Last I checked, but some of the sites I checked, they hadn't reported since March, and because there's nothing to report, they've reported some of the drive-in theaters, and maybe that's where you shop your film to if you've got a lower budget film, and that may not,
This may be a year where people can sneak in and get an Oscar because there may be less content.
Yeah.
It's like, less competition this year, but they did come out and they said they're going to allow streaming films to qualify. But if people don't read the fine print, they won't see that the film must have had an expected release date in the theaters.
Oh, okay. There's the little caveat there.
Right. So it's like there are movies that if it was always planned to go to streaming, you're not going to qualify. But if, say, you had a release date like, West Side Story or Black Widow even, or, films that had a planned release in the theaters, those are ones that are going to qualify. It was just and people made a big deal about it, like basically any dumb Adam Sandler movie is going to qualify. But,
right. There was one that I wanted to see. Manuel, I forgot his name. Hamilton guy, I can't think of his name.
Yeah, in the Heights.
In the Heights, and I don't see that on here. Just looking at the list,
right? Here. I didn't see it.
I think that was going to be pretty big. I have a feeling like that would have been maybe the La La Land of this year. I don't know, possibly, or the West Side Story, even though West Side Story is coming out, Yeah. But that's one that I think needs to be in the theater. I think, especially a musical. And I'm not big on musicals, but that one just seemed like it had enough interestingness to it,
well, and a different perspective too. I think
exactly.
Stories, told from a different way of life and perspective and culture. That we just don't see that much, and I think people are craving stories like that. People ate up Crazy, Crazy Rich Asians? People really love that movie, and I think this has that same kind of. Could have the same kind of appeal.
I don't know if I got to tell you this because it's been a long time since we've had a chance to even hardly talk, let alone talk about films. But I did see. Was it on Amazon Prime? Crazy Rich Asians, the film, Family, from last year.
You watched The Farewell?
The Farewell. I loved it.
Great.
Good. Yeah, it was. It was, oh gosh, what a sweet story. I mean, at this point, I don't want to like ruin it, but that's a film that should have gotten, well, we said when it came out, it should have it was here, what, one day or one weekend in our city?
Right, a release. It was come and gone. Yeah, it came and went so quickly.
Yeah, like I wanted to go see it, and you were like, I'll go back and see it, and then boom, it was gone, and I was like, oh man, and I'm hoping that, those little sleeper hits, like who knows what the sleeper hit would have been this year, or the sleeper hits. And right. I kind of think Invisible Man was a bit of a sleeper hit because, it got reworked from the Dark Universe Invisible Man, and they basically flipped the whole story on its head, and I enjoyed it. It's one of my favorite films.
One of the little like an independent kind of film like that. I don't know the name of it, but it was not Andy. It is Andy. Andy Samberg had a film at Sundance that got picked up that sold for, I think, a record amount. Like they actually requested 1 penny more than the record to make the record.
Oh, wow.
Which I don't know if that's kind of douchey or just funny, but but that was kind of a sleeper I was looking forward to, and who knows if we'll see it. It might go straight to streaming, but that wasn't the deal. They signed the deal to go to the theaters. So.
Right. And like you said, it's about honoring contracts. And, there is that I'm sure there's a clause in the contract if there's a, natural disaster, nuclear war or whatever, or a pandemic, you can probably get out of your contract, but really it's mutually beneficial. It's like if AMC fails, if let's say AMC does not come out of this unscathed and every AMC closes, they are the biggest theater chain in the country. And Cinemark was also, I think it was having some possible financial issues, early on. So I don't know where they stand.
Well, I'm sure they all are.
Yeah. And I mean, businesses weren't meant to be closed all the time. And this is just, this is a business that, refreshes itself every week. It's like start over. It's kind of like retail, but just, not as quickly, but it can be great volumes of people, but in dollars. But yeah, it's so unfortunate because there's so many great films, even though I had a feeling coming off of 2019, every franchise that I've grown up with is basically kind of ended or closed a major chapter. And I kind of felt we got to 2020, it's almost a fresh start, and I didn't.
A fresh start of new reboots.
Of new reboots, yeah. Well,
new reboots and sequels.
Let's start some new franchises and let's get some of those interesting ones.
Well, that's why a movie like Tenet is so exciting. So.
Which I heard a rumor, and total rumor, that it could be related to, dang it, what's the other mind-bending Nolan film with Leo?
Well, they're all Inception, probably.
Inception, yeah. I think there may be a connection, or maybe people just.
I'm sure there are rumors out there about that, but all of Nolan's films, he likes to manipulate time.
Yes, he does. And I just wonder, where we're going to be at the end of this year talking about 2020. There's always going to be that asterisk. And I think every film deserves that came out this year, at least, after they came out in March, I'd say, or after, pretty much where everything closed down, gets an asterisk, and next to it,
No, and it is. It's like it applies to this. It applies to, the idea of the asterisk really applies to sports. When they talk about, Barry Bonds, or even it began with Roger Maris when he broke Babe Ruth's record, but he had more games to do it, so they put an asterisk by the number. But Barry Bonds has asterisks. That's a hard word, isn't it? Asterisk, especially saying it over and over. But yeah, you're right. Like the 2020, maybe all these awards should have asterisks because it's a different world, and we're not getting. I don't think we're getting the releases that we're not. The amount is definitely, the quantity is definitely going to be less.
I think so. And there's probably going to be a lot of films that were on the cusp of getting a release that may not get a release at all, that may just get buried and never get the hype machine behind them. And, years from now may discover them, if they even make it.
We were looking at these release dates,
Right.
and like these are the most prevalent ones that popped up, and I didn't see the New Mutants on there at all.
Yeah,
So,
that film is
what
cursed.
happens with that?
It's just not. They just need. Honestly, that universe is kind of over. They're going to be rebooting the X-Men. They just need to put that film out. That film has just not had a chance. It seems like from the beginning. They just
Crazy
need to,
how long that's been pushed back.
right, and then it's
so many different things.
Right, it's the last of like that X-Men universe, or it's some kind of hybrid of that, and where they might be going. Now that Marvel has everything back in their house, which is going to be fantastic. Fantastic Four.
Yeah, so
but,
we might not. We're not going to have. We're definitely going to have less movies this year for the awards to consider. I hope that doesn't mean less quality. We'll probably, we'll still probably be at the end of the year and be like, oh, there were still some decent films. But another big thing the Oscars did. They announced is they combined, and I know that you'll be interested in this. They combined the two sound categories. There was a sound editing and a sound mixing categories, and now they've combined them into two. I don't know how you feel about that, but
I kind of felt like they both represented their own thing, their own part of sound, and. It depend. I mean, you have cinematography, but what else do you split cinematography in? You know what I mean? It's kind of like that, but for sound. And you have sound design, and you have sound mixing, and we talked about that before. I kind of think they should be separate, but I don't see how you can have best sound design and not have best sound. Not best sound mixing or vice versa.
Obviously, I think they decided to do this mainly for. I think maybe the audience's sake. I mean, they're constantly thinking about the actual presentation,
right?
The show that they have to put on.
Well, I hope it doesn't. I don't mean to interrupt you, but I hope it doesn't take away from sound mixers that were getting that credit. Because we had the wonderful gentleman who won on the last Oscars that thanked his boomer and thanked his his whole sound crew, and I'm like, that'll probably never happen again. It was unfortunately. Well, I don't know.
Be a nice guy.
I mean, that's true. But
I think from their perspective, they see okay, it eats up a little more time.
Right. We
can combine the categories. It's like with art and set direction. You have your you actually have two different departments there. So together, and the same with like hair and makeup. So this is kind of the same idea, even though they are the same department, but it's combining the two so that to save time, I think, as I said, and just to it just kind of makes sense when you look at every year with these. When you look at sound mixing and sound editing, a lot of the time, at least 4 of the same films are nominated in both categories. So what you do is you just put those same guys, and they get added on to the same nomination. So it's basically you still have your sound editors and your sound mixers. They're just together, as one team.
Yeah, but mixing and sound design are, even though they're in the same family, they're like cousins to me. They're kind of like, mixing's a little bit different than sound design. I mean, and sometimes they do blend. I mean, I can see why they would put them together. I can see the reasons. I mean, it makes sense, but I don't know that I necessarily agree with it, but maybe under these circumstances I do.
Another thing I think they're trying to do is they're trying to listen to there's a move to get a stunt category.
Oh yeah.
Which, most people are behind.
The Tom Cruise Award, we'll call it that.
Yeah, right. So I think if they do away with one of these sound categories, it makes room for one that they can bring in also.
I think I have a perfect...
That kind of does away with the whole saving time on the ceremony theory, but...
I think in music, is probably the perfect comparison where you have Song of the Year and Record of the Year. That always used to, one goes to the performer and one goes to like the writers. and all that, which sometimes is the performer also. And, sometimes they're the same song that wins, or like you said, the same things that get nominated. But then sometimes there's that one that you never thought would have a chance. And the same thing with some films, you'll get the one that gets in there for sound design or the one that gets in there for sound mixing. When they're separate, they get to kind of, say, okay, let's, well, I know it's not planned so much or whatever, but it's a chance maybe for some films to fit in those slots, at least get a nomination that might not if you combined it.
I get what you're saying, because like this past year, I know that there were 4 movies that were in both categories, so there's one in each category there that obviously would have lost out. So because those 4 would have been, if it was a combined one, those 4 obviously would have been in there. And one of those 2 would have been out. So I get that's definitely a point. Some people are going to miss out, but some people, craft service isn't nominated. So.
Best craft services goes to whoever. And wow. So it's hard to even predict. It's like the film industry doesn't exist right now. I mean, the TV barely exists. I mean, it's a weird thing. I was watching CW and then all of a sudden I saw something online and said that, their seasons are all, everybody's seasons are up and question. And some
seasons are getting shortened. Walking Dead is the biggest example. We're still waiting for the season finale. We don't know when we're going to get it.
Right. Yeah, I thought I saw a blurb about that said it might be next season, we don't know. It might be when next, so you might open with the cliffhanger. You might end up getting the end of the season and the season opener for the following season. You might get a double whammy and, get the cliffhanger or not get the cliffhanger or get it resolved immediately. I don't know, or within a week or so. Yeah. It's, there could be shows that were, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of TV shows, like a lot of even small businesses that were on the cusp, that get canceled. And, I didn't look at any recent ones, but I know one of the shows that was, I don't know if it was probably canceled before all this, but God Friended Me is a show. Like, my sister's like, you have to watch this because the guy's a podcaster and all that. And so I've been meaning to watch it, and then I've been recording it and just not getting caught up. And so I watched one of the episodes, and it says up next week the series finale, and I'm like, what? And I texted her. She had to look it up. She's like, oh my gosh, no, I love that show, and it's like gone. And,
there's a lot on the bubble. I mean, a lot of comedies are on the bubble.
Oh yeah, I felt this was going to be the year of comedies or something. We were going to see more of them. At least I felt like, maybe I was just being hopeful.
On TV. There's some good ones.
Yeah, and there's a lot of stuff, and I need to do a list of. I did earlier on. I did a list of when all this happened, like things to watch, and did an episode or whatever, and and I picked up.
Unfortunately, network TV's kind of gone, somewhat downhill.
Well, I saw that.
The streaming services have the best content, obviously. HBO,
Yeah, they're bringing back the Sunday night movie. I don't know what major network that is. I feel it's CBS. Yeah, and it almost looks like when I grew up in like the 70s and 80s and all, and it had that, kind of logo look. And they're playing like one of the Indiana Jones films, which I'm like, that's awesome.
No, they did. They're bringing back the Sunday night movie, and I think I saw that the Raiders of the Lost Ark maybe, and
right.
Or maybe it was Last Crusade. I don't know. One of those.
It was one of them. Yeah, it was probably Raiders. I don't know.
Forrest Gump, and they're going to play some classics on Sunday night, and they used to do that all the time.
Right. Yeah, I grew up with that.
Before football took over every night.
That's true. And now it's is it Thursday night football? Is there still Monday night football? I don't even know anymore.
Yes, there is. There's NFL. There's Thursday, Monday, and Sunday. Sometimes even Saturday.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, like sports. I mean, wrestling. I know you're the sports guy. Whenever we used to do trivia, Maybe we'll get back to that sometime.
I'm a sports ringer.
You're the sports guy and the Oscar guy, because we did for my birthday online. We did a Zoom call, and you were like kicking everybody's butt in trivia, like movie trivia, and we were like, "Gosh, he's getting everything," especially when it comes to like Oscars.
I had to throw a couple of questions.
Oh, well, I don't doubt it.
Don't tell anybody. Oh, great, we're recording, aren't we?
Yeah. But yeah, the whole idea of them bringing back films, I think, making them events, that's what, network television is not what it used to be. I mean, people stream and they like podcasts or the thing now, which is so funny to see it come back, and it's like YouTubers are now podcasters and YouTubers, and people are on demand type of people. We want to stop, pause the show, come back to it, unless of course we're going to the theater and seeing it, but then we've planned out that 2 hours roughly that we're going to see it. And I don't know, I think, maybe we'll go back to a simpler time. Maybe we'll come out of this and people are like, well, we don't need all these newfangled devices, but I doubt that. I think we're going to go the other way with it. I think we're going to see more like emerging AI, 5G, all that stuff. I think we're going to see more automation. They're going to find ways to put robots in the theaters, and you skip the kiosk and you skip the whatever, and the
right. I mean,
food's already made.
This whole situation is forcing companies into learning
right
how to work without staff or work from afar, and
exactly.
And they may keep these changes that they've implemented. Yeah, you're right.
Or they may have to do the universal thing where, hey, you release some of this, it's kind of like that same model. You do some of it in the theater, and then you do some of it, on, video on demand. It's like the same thing. You do some of your dining room business. You'll get some people who come in and sit down, and some people that just want to take out, I mean, all aspects, all different companies, I think, are learning that. We're learning that, parents, I think, are appreciating teachers more.
This is definitely improving restaurants' takeout game. Because I know some restaurants used to be terrible at it, and they've gotten a lot better. There, in fact, one place I won't name it tonight. But
no, please don't.
We picked up, but it's I'm not trying to promote it anyway. But this place, I've had an awful experience picking up food from them multiple times. But tonight, it was the best experience ever, because that's what they're focusing on, and they're getting better at it.
Right. So. And so you have to adjust your model, just the way you do business, the way you see your doctor, it's like, virtually, and, you don't have to, and there's that risk that people
take your temperature,
right, or people become, the risk of, if theaters go away, if that experience goes away, then people are sitting in their house. People need a reason to get out of their houses, once it's safe and clear and everyone's well. That's why, there's too much craziness in the world. I like to go to a theater for a couple hours and just lose myself in that experience, and whatever that story is, whether it's sci-fi or it's, a documentary or something, whatever. I mean,
Well, that's the benefit of it. It's an escape that some of us aren't getting now. So,
right. Yeah. And some of us are going stir crazy. People like me, I'm like, I want to go out. I want to do this. I want to do that. But I'm trying to be respectful of not just myself, but of others, especially, because I don't know. We all got to do our part, I think, personally. But I did want to mention on the podcast, we've had an incredible spike in our numbers. Our downloads have been like through the roof. And so I know a lot more people are listening. And so the podcast is kind of benefiting from this in a way. Yeah. But I've been trying to create content, but there's been times, honestly, that I'm like, I can't. I don't have the energy or the whatever it is I don't know what I want to talk about, or there's nothing to talk about. No. Well, even sometimes, yeah, me, I'm apparently always talking, but yeah, I'm supposed to be, there's a lot of goals that we all said we were going to make day one of this pandemic. We were going to do this and get this done. And people have cleaned their houses and gone through stuff. And,
that's what I'm doing this week. Yeah.
And then I've had a few bouts of that, but there's been a few days where I'm like, why am I waking up today? I have to tell myself, okay, get up, get on a schedule. And I think that's the important thing, is to stay on a schedule. And I've been off and on a schedule. I'm up watching stuff, but I'm up late nights anyway. That's the kind of person I am. And I'm usually watching YouTube videos or playing with my equipment here. I don't mean that the way it sounds. My audio equipment, trying to perfect things. And so hopefully, make better content and better sounding content. So, we've got some new expanded things here in the podcast. I hope to be doing more videos, and but always going to do the audio podcast. So you'll always hear this, wherever. So, anyway, Scott, what else do you want to talk about? Because I think we've kind of talked everything out here, but what would you?
Yeah, let's wrap it up. I think the big point is, just support your theaters. Go, I know that it may be a little scary to get back out there at first, but the theater, we need the theater industry to survive. So when the fog lifts, let's all go back out there and enjoy some good movies. Hopefully July 17th with Tenet.
Yeah, well, and this is also a great time before we get some of those blockbusters really rolling and people into the theaters in mass, like we're used to having. Maybe you'll look at locally even, and look at some of your local filmmakers and maybe, some of these regional films, that sometimes play in certain cities or whatever, maybe we'll get better traction. So like you said earlier on, maybe this is the year of the independent film, maybe this, since the field's been kind of cleared, maybe there's a chance for these films that would have been overshadowed or gone straight to video on demand or whatever. Maybe they'll get, if they go to video on demand, maybe they'll get the recognition that, hopefully, some smaller films should get that don't normally get it. So that's my hope. And I want to get back in the theater. I'm going to take myself to an IMAX or whatever and sit there and, go half death and be excited about it.
How many feet is a seat? And it's about probably 1.5 feet. So we'll sit 4 seats away from each other.
That's fine. That's
probably about 6 feet, right?
Yeah, I'm not going, if I have to take my mouth shut or something or whatever, put a bag around my head or whatever's safe, I don't know. I'm a bit of a germaphobe, but not too bad. But I don't know. It depends. Anyway, so let's wrap this up because I'll talk forever. So I want to thank you, Scott Schreiber, for coming back, Scott, and I'm glad that you said this is weird because we're usually face to face, and you're on the other side of the table, so we're looking at each other for cues in the conversation.
Yeah, it still worked. We probably stepped on each other a little bit, but
I probably did more of the stepping. I probably still am.
No,
I'm just excited. I'm just happy to hear your voice and to get some new content out there and to talk about some of these things because, it's more fun to have more people on the podcast that, have different views and different points of view of things. So, and cool. So, all right. Well, thank you once again. And thank you, everybody. Check us out, Geek Homeworld on Twitter. Let us know what's up, what you want us to talk about. You can, wherever your podcast, you consume them, you can consume the Geek Homeworld podcast, and we're everywhere. So thank you again, Scott, and take care. Stay healthy, everybody. And
do the same.
Yeah. And this is Ed Ciucevich, host of the Geek Homeworld podcast. And thank you so much. And goodbye.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Geek Homeworld with your host, Savage Tech Man. You can find us on Libsyn, Google+, follow and interact with us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, listen to us on iTunes and leave a review, subscribe to us on YouTube, read our thoughts on Blogger. See you again on the Geek Homeworld.